Hi, I'm Amanda from the Pazzles craft room, and I'm really excited today to show you this super fun project. We are going to make some extra fancy pie crusts using our Pazzles inspiration and the Pazzles pastry tool. I just started doing this a couple days ago, and I have to say that it is instantly one of my favorite things to do with the pastry tool because it's really easy, it's really foolproof, and I mean, the results are absolutely incredible. So let's get started. So here's one more good look at that pie that we're going to make today. We'll make this pretty lace overlay and also the flower in the middle. And the cutting file for this is included on our website at pazzlescraftroom.com. As far as supplies, you should have pretty much everything that you need in your kitchen already. Of course, make sure that you have your Pazzles inspiration and the pastry tool and a pastry mat. Also grab a basting brush, rolling pin, shortening, disinfectant wipes, a pie pan, of course. The pizza roller is optional. If you don't have one, don't worry about it. Just use a butter knife instead. Okay, so the pie crust we need to talk about for a second. I have pre-made pie crust here. I have Pillsbury today, but I've also used a generic store brand and it didn't make any difference at all. So don't worry about the brand. If you've never bought these before, you can find them in the refrigerated section at the grocery store. Look around where you would find croissants and cinnamon rolls. They're like $2 to $3 for a box of 2 pie crusts, so they're really reasonable. I did also try my own pie crust and I really was not a fan. It was difficult because as opposed to these, it's not pre-rolled, so it took quite a bit of work to get it down to the thickness that I wanted. And the other problem was that my personal recipe was really soft, so the design didn't hold its shape very well. It's something that absolutely can be done, and I'll try to address some of the differences as we go. But for your first time, I highly recommend that you just start with some pre-made crusts. When you're getting started, make sure that you take a disinfectant wipe and wipe down any part of your inspiration that food might come in contact with. Also make sure that you take off all of the removable rollers and that you put your pastry tool in. For your pastry mat, take your basting brush and put some shortening on it. And then just cover the entire surface of your pastry mat. You want it to be shiny and definitely have some shortening over the whole thing, but try to avoid any really big white globs. Okay, then take your pastry out of its bag and just carefully unroll it and stick it in the center of your mat. Now these are a little bit on the thick side for the inspiration, so take your roller and roll it out a little bit more. Okay, once you've got it rolled out, just take your pizza cutter or your butter knife and make sure that your pie crust isn't over the big, thick pink line on the outside of the mat, because that's where your rollers are going to go on the inspiration. And so if you have pie crust there, you're going to get pie crust on your rollers, and it's not the end of the world, but it does make a mess. So clean it all up like that. Okay, now we're ready to load it into the inspiration and cut. Now when you get it loaded into your inspiration, I think it's a really good idea, once you've loaded it, use these arrows on the top to feed the mat through. What I'm looking for is, does my pie crust go under the rollers without making any divots? That's how I know that I'm at a really good thickness. If you do have some kind of indentations from your rollers, just take it out and roll it just a little bit thinner. Also, if you want, you can stick this in the freezer for about 10 minutes and that might help with your cutting. To be honest, I found that it cuts just fine without putting it in the freezer, but if for some reason you live in a more humid climate or you're trying to use your own pastry crust, or if you're trying to do something very detailed, definitely stick this in the freezer for about 10 minutes before you start cutting. Now the design that I'm using is again available on the Pazzles Craft Room website, and I'm using this for a 9-inch pie crust, but I've actually made the circle about 9 3/4 because I want it to hang over the edges of my pie pan just a little bit. So just keep that in mind if you're making your own design that you want to make it, I would say about 1/2 inch to 1 inch bigger than the size of your pie pan. Okay, we're all set. Let's send it to cut. Okay, we're all done cutting, and just look, these cuts are beautiful, nice and clean. I'm gonna peel away some of the extra around here so that you can get a good look, but see how nice that cut? This is why I love working with the pastry tool and pie crust. I'm gonna leave these inside pieces and you can pick them out, but last time I did this, I found that I had better luck just kind of peeling away the piece that I want and leaving those extra pieces behind. Plus, we're going to use these little heart pieces to make the flower in the middle of our pie, so I don't want to ruin those just yet. Okay, so I've made the rest of my pie, put some nice apple pie filling in there. Now to get this on top. Now, if you have any trouble at this point, if you've made something really delicate, this is another good opportunity to just toss this in the freezer for about 10 minutes, and then it should be a lot easier to work with. To be honest though, I didn't do that. See how nice that cut? Oh, it just makes me so happy. Just lay that right on top there. Ta-da! Oop, got a couple pieces hanging on. Let's get those out of there. Okay, and then I took some of these heart pieces that were left behind, and I'm just kind of curling them a little bit and sticking them in the middle. And this is how we're getting the flower. And you can also take some of these oval pieces and stick them underneath. Those will be our leaves. Okay, and you have two options here. You can take a circle left from the middle of your cutout and you can just stick that in the middle and you can make a flower that way. I took some of the smaller rectangle pieces that were left behind and I just sort of balled them up and stuck those in the middle. Okay, and you can just press down the edge if you want, or you can take a spoon to it. Something, just get it kind of attached around the edge there. I'm doing the quick way right now and just doing it with my thumb. Okay, that's it. This is ready to cook. Just cook it like you would any other pie and enjoy.